Hello, comrades. I'm back with you again. This is a topic that deals with, in the context of the Black African struggle, which way do we go from here, considering the things that are going on, the restlessness in the UK with the immigration situation, the restlessness in the United States with the immigration situation, the dissatisfied uh, Black African in the North America about reparations, the dissatisfaction of the African, the Black African on the continent with uh, leadership that is not totally representative of the struggle and the insecurities that the people have that have not been addressed, the fact that the continent is developing, as they say, and we have to question whether it has been underdeveloped, even though they say developing, because this has been going on for a long time. Um, and to piggyback on that comment right there, I read in a book called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, a very controversial book by Walter Rodney. I just read a section in that which said that um, that it is so interesting to hear that all the labor that was taken from the continent of Africa, like all the slave labor that was extracted from the continent and taken to the Western world, and all that free labor to build a rapidly, highly industrial nation. And in the selling and the wickedness of selling slaves and trading out their brothers, and then the West coming and just taking them into bondage and making them build that, leaving behind a continent that is continually developing, when all of that labor was taken away and extracted to build some other nation in the West, mainly the United States. And now descendants of Africans on the continent are sending their children, or their children are leaving willfully to go to the West for jobs and a better life, so called, or to bring money back. However, they're intending to do it, they're all going out to get, many of them, not all of them. And I find it very interesting that only few leaders in the continent are calling for the diaspora and their lost brothers to come home. Few out of 53 nations are somewhat on the continent. And then the ones over in the continent, all that labor, and they could have built up the continent as well with that labor. Sad situation. And so I want to kind of look at a little bit of that, and then where do we go from here? Because we have people that are comfortable, that have a little income on the continent, that are comfortable with it being just like it is. We have people that are in the diaspora in the North America that are comfortable just like it is. In middle class, that got them a nice little job, little income, little pension. They're comfortable, so they're not making any complaints. Comfortable people don't make real complaints. People that are restless, people that are struggling with justice, and they don't have the money to pay for the right kind of people to fight for justice, they go without, or it's marginalized, or if not, they don't get it at all. And then you have people in the North America and diaspora that are crying out because they're dissatisfied. And you have whites, Europeans that are tired of hearing the cries. They're saying, when will you be satisfied? Like they did back in the 60s. Martin Luther King they said that back in the 60s. When will you be satisfied? When is enough enough? He said that Martin Luther King said the European the whites look at a sense of accomplishment by the Negro as a sense of completion, whereas the Negro, back as he said it then, looks at it as a sense of just accomplishment, but not completion. So when will we be satisfied? We're still crying out. And I mentioned in some of my early topics that the clocks have seeming to be turned back. Now, I've been a very avid man in the context of struggling as a young man, as a boy, all the way up through adulthood, and experienced lots of racism and lots of injustice, even observing it. Even in this modern day, even in the 2000s, 2020, 23, 2020, 2020, it's an institutional type of racism. The individual racism you'll see here and there, but the institutional one is the one that's still alive. And it's hard to prove because of the way that the laws are shaped and everything. So anyway, the struggle still goes on. And when I see people crying out, I know what they're talking about. The worst thing, one of the worst things is seeing these boys get shot down that are unarmed by these ruthless rogue cops. Very few of those cases that I could see, very few where that stuff seems justified. I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to tell you, I've been in physical conflicts with people who are mentally challenged and people who are deranged, and was able to restrain and get them to a position where they could be treated, where I was not injured and neither were they, or it was very minimal injury. Sometimes one-on-one, but many times it was safer if it was a team effort in taking these people down. You go in and just blow them away because you're so threatened. It's preposterous. So I don't want to digress, but the thing is, where do we go from here? Because we see our boys continually being carted out in coffins because it seems like the judge, jury, and the executioner is right there in the street. There is no jury. There is no judge because they're executing in the street. Some of these boys were handcuffed and were killed. So I had a neck on their shoulder, a knee on their neck when they were handcuffed. They did something about a little of that, but this is going on too far. We're going on too far. And so when I ask, where do we go from here? I already said to Black Africans in the diaspora, when is enough enough? And you're going to decide to start doing some things for yourself and start making some decisions without them. Because that's what it's coming to. And I ask America, the government of the U.S., and the governments in the diaspora that's not helping these situations, when are you going to make provisions? What does it take to have a good conscience, especially in America? What does it take to sleep with a good conscience that you've done all you can for the African slave descendant and give him a good send-off? Why don't you consider a good send-off, a good thing of reparation, a piece of land or something like that, where they can go live where they want to live. If they choose to do that, if they choose to stay, let them stay. But if they want to stay, what's the evil about that? What's the price of a good conscience, a good faith effort to give us a good send-off and let us have some capital or some land that we could do and build our own thing, and we can all live happily. You can be where you are, we can be where we are, and the people who want to still maintain, let them maintain or whatever. But what does it take for a good conscience in the people who are descendants of slave masters to come together with the people who were descendants of slaves and finalize something that we all can be happy. I'm bringing this on this platform. Whether I'm not, your integration was a method out there that you tried, and it seems like the clocks are turning back. You still this is not worth the killing of our boys. So you don't love them, we do. We want them removed. I want them removed. I think we do better teaching our kids the truth instead of letting them be taught with lies where we have to fight each other all the time because the hatred that has been ingrained in us through our sojourn after slavery is just taking over us and we can't even unite. And we got drugs to compound the situation that's flooded into the ghettos and flooded into the communities. We have to deal with that now. You making money off of that. Rehab centers, you're making money off the prison industrial complex. You're getting paid. No matter whether we fell or not, you're getting paid. So I'm saying, when are we going to draw the lines? The people who are conscious, who want to see something better, and the ones who think it's okay like it is, stay. And I'm going to use this as respectfully and discreetly as I can. Stay the hell out of the way. Stay the hell out of the way and keep your hellish mouth shut. Because we putting ourselves on the line just even facing off like this. Some people have lost their lives trying to stand up in the struggle. And you have the audacity to come back and talk about, we don't want to go to Africa. Shut your mouth. And quit talking what you don't know. You don't talk for everybody. Just like I don't talk for everybody, you don't either. So I'm talking for the ones who see it like I do. When are we going to get something done where we can have our own flag and do our own thing as another solution? I'll tell you what. Big brother Jamal is just talking on his own. Okay. In the book Black Revolts, he did an assessment back in the 70s over what route this has taken us and where we're headed with the struggle within the diaspora. And he said right here, I'm going to pick up on page 162 of Black Revolts, Racial Stratification in the USA by Mr. Scott. What was his? Joseph Scott. Okay, and it says right here, I'm going to start up here. Let's see what my time, got a couple of minutes. Let me get there. Okay, it does not seem that the black masses would like to be revolutionary, since it would probably evoke the white response of elimination, mutilation, or legal political repression by the white power structure. The most likely outcome of the racial dialectic in this country will be some type of voluntary separatism, wherein blacks and whites can voluntarily segregate in selected spheres of life. That is to say, in areas of private clubs, churches, entertainment, residency, and the like, blacks and whites will have the legal options of voluntarily separating. But in areas where there's legal things like government, like judicial spheres, shopping, working, learning, they may have to come together. That's kind of what we're doing now. Okay. As judges, jurors, blacks and whites will have to integrate. But that's where the problem has been in the judicial system. They don't feel like we're seeing it two different ways. So I don't know about that. But it says involuntary separation. The most formal separation is national separation. If voluntary separation, which is really communal separation, fails, national separation will be the ultimate direction of black liberation movement in the USA. Abolitionism, assimilationism, and communal separation may not bring complete liberation, but national separation will, and that lesson has yet to be learned. And that's how he concluded the possibilities of where we're headed, because we may not get along. There may be coming some clash, and I'm afraid that all these burning of cities and looting and mass graves that we've read about when people fight back and incarcerate, put them in detention centers. If that happens on a national level, we're in a lot of trouble. And before we do that, what would be a good conscious effort for us to prevent that, circumvent that, and do something better? I'm out of time. Peace, love, God bless.